Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're going to be looking at the Beretta A400 series. Now first we're going to look at the A400 Xcel Sporting. We're going to talk about some first impressions, shootability, as well as my final thoughts. And then we're going to wrap up the video today talking about some history, as well as the different variations that you'll find in the A400 family. So with that being said, let's dive right on in. So today we've got a 2022 Beretta A400 Xcel Sporting. It does have a 30-inch Stelium barrel that does take the Optima HP chokes. Now it can take 2 3/4 as well as 3-inch shells. However, it is important to note that this gun was actually designed for sporting. So sporting clays, 5-stand, things like that is really what you're going to mainly be using it for. It does have Beretta's Blink gas-operated system with a rotating bolt head, and Beretta claims that this can actually shoot 4 rounds per second. Now, I can't shoot that fast, so I'm not going to be able to test it, but we will take Beretta's word for it. On top of that, they've also promised less maintenance as well as cleaning. They actually redesigned the gas piston to make it smaller. And it actually does measure gas a little bit more precisely, so it makes it just more effective, better performance, and then also reduce that maintenance and cleaning, which is a really nice system. Now, in terms of looks, this does have the gray Aquatech shield finish on the receiver, and it also has a blue bolt. In terms of the wood here, we've got walnut wood with Beretta's extra grain technology to really make that grain pop and enhance that. So they've got that finish on there. Other features on this gun are going to be oversized controls. So as you can see, the charging handle is longer than normal. The bolt release is going to be a much bigger button, easier to access. And then if we look at the bottom of the receiver, the loading port is actually enlarged. So you can see it's actually been milled out for easier reloads. Other things on this gun to look for is that for balance, they actually have a weight that you can screw onto the fore-end cap to adjust the balance. If you want to have it lighter in the front or heavier in the front, you can just interchange those weights, which is also really nice. Other things is that it does have Beretta's kickoff recoil reduction system that's actually built into the stock. So that's another nice feature, and it does also have Beretta's micro core recoil pad, and you can get different ones as well to adjust that length of pull. Other standard features on this gun are going to be an ambidextrous cross-bolt safety. It also has a low-profile receiver with low-profile beads. It's got a mid-bead and an end bead, so really nice sight picture there. And then on top of it, it also has an adjustable stock as it comes with shims. Now, specific specs on this gun, you're going to be looking at this gun on the table being at 7 pounds, 10 ounces. Also, it's got a 14.5-inch length of pull right out of the box. However, that is adjustable based on different recoil pad sizes. And then it's got a 1.5-inch drop at the comb and a 2.25-inch drop at the heel, which again is also adjustable with shims. Now, those are some of the main features of the gun that I wanted to cover out of the gates. But now let's talk about my first impressions on this gun, shootability, as well as my final thoughts. Alright, so before I get too far into shootability, I think it's important that I disclose that I actually have quite a bit of time behind this gun. At this point, I have, a few years and a few thousand rounds into it. So for today, I'm going to do the best that I can to talk more about my first impressions when I first got the gun, as well as shootability and my final thoughts on the gun. So with that being said, one of the first things that I remember is that when I first picked up this gun, it had a great feel to it. I loved the checkering, I loved the slim fore-end design, the pistol grip was a little bit chunkier, had a nice little right-hand palm swell in it, so I immediately felt that I had a lot of control of the gun, which was going to help me in terms of swinging, pointing, and overall sight picture and shooting. So those are some of the things that really stood out when I first picked up this gun. Now, on top of that, balance is another thing. Now, I had mentioned that Beretta actually allows for different weights that you can screw on to the fore-end cap to make that front end heavier or lighter. Now, right out of the box, this gun actually felt really well balanced for me, so I didn't have to make any changes, but I do like that Beretta allows for operators to change those weights to make it custom to them. So those are some of the things right out of the side of the box that I really liked. Now, in terms of looks, this does have Beretta's gray Aquatech Shield finish, which I really think is an upgrade from the previous finish. If you guys remember from the first Xcel Sporting, it was a very loud electric blue on the entire receiver, and I just wasn't really a fan of that. Now, in terms of the bolt, they do have a light blue bolt on here, and personally, some days I like it, other days I don't. I'm kind of indifferent on it. What do you guys think of it? Do you like that blue bolt, or would you prefer it was a different color? Lastly, let's talk about the actual wood. Beretta does use walnut, and they use their extra grain technology to really make that grain pop. Now, personally, when I first saw it, I kind of felt that it looked and felt a little artificial. However, it doesn't look bad, it's just different. I guess I'm a little more old school. I actually really like a gloss stock and gloss forend. I just like that shiny look, and I feel like it really makes the wood almost look like artwork. But again, those are just my preferences, so it's not a bad design. It's kind of funny because as I talk about it out loud, I'm complaining about the bolt color and the grain of the wood, but when I really take a look at this gun, it really offers so much more. So let's talk a little bit about that. Now, it does have those oversized controls, so the charging handle is longer than usual, and the bolt release is also larger than usual. Now, if you are shooting this in cold weather or you're wearing gloves, it really does make ease of operation a big thing with this gun. So I really do like those oversized controls. If you guys remember from the original Berettas or even other semi-auto guns out there, they have a really small button for the bolt release, and if you're wearing gloves, you have to pretty much get your finger like right in the middle and put quite a bit of pressure on to actually release that bolt, which in cold weather and in tough, tight situations might not be the best. So Beretta did a great job with those controls. Now, underneath the receiver, you've got the loading port, and Beretta actually milled out around that receiver, which allows for really ease of reloads. So again, if you're wearing gloves, if there's cold weather, you don't have to worry about, pinching your fingers or anything like that. And overall, it's a really, really good design that I'm a fan of. And to be honest, you really don't even notice how great it is until you go back to a gun that doesn't have those features and you realize, wow, I'm really missing out, and you want to go back to a gun like this that has those features. So that's also something important to note. Now, let's talk about shootability for a little bit. Now, this is primarily a sporting gun, so I really shoot 7.5 shot and 8 shot target loads out of it. That's actually all I've shot out of it. I know it does take 3-inch shells, but never really had a use for it because I don't hunt with this gun. So what I can say is it is a Beretta, it's an auto loader, and I have never had any kind of issues with misfires, failure to load, failure to eject. It has run flawlessly, and really I wouldn't expect any less from a Beretta, especially at this price point. Now, in terms of trigger, the trigger is a little mushy on it, comes in right around 5 pounds, but again, I'm not going to complain about that. Overall, it doesn't really bother me. Also want to talk about the actual blink gas system. So it is a very smooth operating, smooth cycling system. It's got that rotating bolt head. Really good design from Beretta. And it actually works really well in conjunction with the kickoff system, that recoil reduction system in the stock. In fact, I remember when I first started shooting this gun, it felt weird, and I'll tell you, tell you why. The first shot was great, but then it almost feels like the gun absorbs the recoil, and almost like the gun is kind of like contracting a little bit. So it really threw me off the first couple times shooting it for those follow-up shots, and it really kind of psyched me out. Now, there is a little bit of a learning curve with it, and it's not going to be for everybody, but for me at least, I shot it consistently through league, took it out, often, and eventually I actually learned to appreciate the soft recoil on this gun. Because you realize, wow, the bolt system and that recoil reduction system are actually really working together. And actually, Beretta says that it reduces the recoil by 50%. I can't test that, but I can say that it is much lesser recoil than other guns that I've shot. And in fact, out of all the guns that I've shot in all different types, I would say that this A400 Xcel Sporting, now this version, the 2022, enhanced version, is definitely in the top 5 guns that I have ever shot in terms of low recoil. So that's definitely something to note if you're looking for a low recoil sporting gun. Now, the last thing that I want to bring up is that I think Beretta did an amazing job in terms of the actual design of the action, in terms of simplicity for takedown, cleaning, and reassembly. And what I mean by that is that Beretta actually took the bolt action return spring and they moved it from the stock into the front of the receiver. So when you disassemble this gun, the bolt, the action bars, the action bar assembly, everything comes out the front, so you can take it all out in one piece. You can clean it, you can oil it up, reassemble it right on the spot, which saves you time, headaches, all that good stuff. And also allowed that room in the back of the stock for that kickoff recoil reduction system. So Beretta definitely had this figured out, and I think it's important to note that it really makes it easier for the user in those tight situations where you do have to take it apart and put it together quickly and effectively. So that's also something important to note. What are my final thoughts on it? And if you couldn't tell, I'm actually really a big fan of the A400 Xcel Sporting, especially this 2022 version. I think Beretta did an amazing job with the enhancements, the oversized controls, the enlarged loading port, the kickoff system. They just did an amazing job designing this gun, and when you shoot it, it really just hits on all cylinders, right? So I'm a big fan of it, and definitely if you haven't had a chance to pick one up and shoot it, I would definitely make it a point to do that, because like I said, this is actually one of my top 5 guns that I shoot for sporting clays and 5-stand, and I imagine that it will continue to be for some time until Beretta or another company comes out with something better. So those are my final thoughts on the A400 Xcel Sporting, and with that said, let's get into some history along with some of the different variations that they made in the A400 family. All right, so the story of the A400 came about in the mid-2000s when Beretta was looking to redesign their gas-operated autoloader bolt and action. Now, they already had a great name for themselves with decades of successful autoloaders on the market. They had the A300 series in the 80s, the A390 in the 90s, and the A391 series in the 2000s. However, while they were still producing the A391, they actually came out with the Blink gas system, which would revolutionize their autoloaders and introduce the A400 series. Now, the first A400s were introduced in 2008 with the actual Unico model, and Unico means unique in Italian. Those came in at 7 pounds, and they were offered in 26-inch and 28-inch barrels. Then in 2009, they came out with the A400 Light series, which was actually designed more for smaller frame shooters and upland hunting. Those came in at 6 pounds, 9 ounces, and also came in 26-inch and 28-inch barrels. Then in 2010, Beretta came out with the A400 Xcel Sporting, which was the first version of this gun. And basically, that was a 7-pound, 11-ounce gun that actually had barrels ranging from 26 inches all the way up to 32 inches. That same year, they also came out with the multi-target, which was basically kind of like a jack-of-all-trades, all-inclusive competition shotgun. So it had an adjustable rib on it, adjustable comb and stock, and overall was just a very highlighted gun back in 2010 when it came out. Now, in my opinion, this is also the same year that Beretta really got noticed for the A400 series. In fact, that's when I kind of found out about it, was like 2010, 2011, because it was starting to get noticed as such a soft, recoiling, smooth cycling shotgun at that time. Now, in 2011, they then came out with the Extreme model, which was basically designed for hunting and waterfowl. It could take 3.5-inch shells, and it also came with sling swivels as well for hunting applications. This is also the same year that they actually came out with the 20-gauge option, and they also came out with something called the gun pod, which is basically this electronic system in the stock that would actually count the amount of rounds that you've shot through the gun, as well as it had a thermostat in it, and it also had a pressure gauge in it. So this is all information that the shooter could get to make decisions while, shooting competition. So those are all some nice things that came out in 2011. Now, the next big advancement was in 2014 when they came out with the 28-gauge option. So then at this point, they had the gun in 12-gauge, 20-gauge, and 28-gauge. And then after that, it wasn't until 2022 when they made some enhancements and some revisions on the Xcel Sporting, and that's when this gun came out in 2022. And up until basically 2024, nothing really was done with the A400 series, but then in 2024, they announced at SHOT Show in 2025 that they came out with the A400 L Sporting, L meaning luxury, and really that was again more a sporting design application. However, it was just really fancy. It had really nice engraving on the receiver, beautiful wood, and was just maybe a little bit fancier gun than the traditional Xcel Sporting for people that are into that. So with that being said, I did go over quite a few of the A400 variants over the years. However, I probably didn't cover them all. So at this point, I want to ask you guys, what are some of the things that I didn't cover in this video? What are some of the things that, you feel and think about the A400 series if you own one or if you have owned one in the past? I'd love to read that in the comments. So please, take that time, put it in the comments, not only for me, but for other viewers as well. So with that being said, we're really excited to share all this information about the A400 with you guys. I do think it's a fantastic shooting gun, sporting gun, and also, I haven't used it for hunting applications, but again, put it in the comments. What do you guys think about the Extreme? Is it a great option for hunting, especially waterfowl hunting, or not? I'd want to know. But with that being said, this is Scott signing off with the Average Joe's Armory, channel for the Average Joe. As always, we really do appreciate all of your support. If you do like this content, please take that time to like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you can get notifications of all of our future content. And with that being said, we'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.